Good morning.
Good morning, folks. How are you all doing?
Cheers. Everyone, welcome Katie. Hey, Katie, cheers.
Here's to you, Adam. It's so good to be on this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for being with us. So glad to have you here, and I'm excited to see lots of records. Well, as many as we can. Hey, good morning, Laura.
Hi, Laura. So good to see you in the chat.
Cheers. Thanks for stopping by. And here's Mike. Good morning, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Cheers, Mike. So am I the cat or the kitten, Mike? Oh, thank you so much. Here comes another one.
Hello.
Hey, good morning, T. Cheers.
So good to see you.
Yes, absolutely. So good to see you, T. And then here's another one in the wings. Hey, good morning, TC. Cheers.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, Laura, I feel so honored. I did see your resin pieces on the Clio auction, so that was cool, Laura. Yeah.
I want to make some cool resin art.
Good morning, David. Cheers.
Hi, David.
Thanks for joining. Hey, everybody. This is Katie. She's hanging out with us, and she's going to show us some vinyl. So, Katie, why don't you just jump into it?
Sure. I'd love to. I have some fantastic vinyl to share with you all today. And the first two 45s I pulled, I thought were really interesting. I've got some LPs, of course, but I kind of learned a little bit about this story attached to this vinyl a few weeks ago on another live chat. If you watch Johnny G's Vinyl Treasure Show, he was talking about this, and I had no clue. And I thought it was really interesting. So this first 45, I'll take it out of the sleeve here, is on dub, and this is by the Edzels, a great 50s doo-wop group. And this is Ramalama Ding Dong, which I'm sure you guys have heard this fantastic song. But this album I always thought was an original press. And it's not. The reason why is because it's spelled correctly. And originally, when this album came out, it was spelled incorrectly. They made a mistake, and it actually said Lama Rama Ding Dong. And then, of course, when it first came out, it wasn't very popular, but a DJ discovered the song and then made it really popular. And the second press is on Twin, and I happen to have that here, and I find that really interesting because actually the second press sounds better. So I find that so interesting, and I love the Edzels. You can't go wrong with Ramalama Ding Dong, and then the back is bells. So this is on Twin here and dub, but the first press will actually be spelled wrong and can go for a whole lot of money. Look it up online sometime. It's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Like $1,000. So that's interesting. Hello.
Good morning, Sean. Thanks for joining. Yeah, very cool. So how did you happen to find those two sevens?
I found the first one I found online. Actually, I just totally enjoyed the song and wanted to get it on vinyl. And I started looking up the Edzels, and I found that they don't have a lot of LPs. And if they do, they're very expensive. So I found this 45, and I knew that Dub was the original label. And I thought, oh, this is great. And I bought it for like $5. It wasn't much. You know, sometimes on eBay, the good thing is people don't know what they have. They're just clearing out, you know, their grandparents' record stash from the attic or something, and you can get a lot of good deals if you know what you're looking for. But I found that one, and then I went to get the Twin because I thought it was kind of neat to have both, even though this one's not the one that's spelled incorrectly.
Good morning, Kurt. Cheers. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Kurt.
Good morning, Yolanda.
Hi, Yolanda.
Cheers. Thanks for joining. Everybody, this is Katie from where's my notes? Vintage and Vinyl.
Yes, no worries.
Vintage and Vinyl. And then here comes Norma Jean. Good morning, Norma Jean. I'll wait for a second. There she comes. Hey, good morning, Norma Jean.
That's Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie.
We used to say +1 when we would get on the guest list for all these bands when I was in radio. Yeah. Okay, keep it going, Katie. Keep it
So
going.
the next album that I have is one I think is really unique. This is Buddy Holly Showcase. It's on Coral. And the kind of cool thing about this is this was
Ooh,
released directly after Buddy Holly died. And these were never released on vinyl or never before heard early tracks of Buddy Holly's work before he really made it big. So we all know Buddy Holly, of course, and I think that this album is fantastic. Buddy Holly is one of my very favorite early rock and roll singers. And of course, he got his influence from Elvis. So you hear a lot of that kind of early um, rockabilly style on this album here. But I think it's just a neat album. And when I found this at the time, these were going a little bit more expensive online. This is an original press. And again, don't discount the dollar bin at some of your local record shops because this was in the dollar bin, perfect condition, no issues, and I was just thrilled to get it. And now I think it's a little bit more readily available, but I just love listening to this. And it's definitely unique in my opinion, just because it's Buddy Holly and it's songs that you really never heard him do before, which I think is neat.
good
Now,
morning, Stephen. Cheers. Thanks for joining us.
hi, Stephen. So the next record that I'd like to show is one by Chubby Checker. And these are readily available. I mean, they're not hard to get, but this is an original press, and this is Let's Twist Again. Now, I love the album cover on this. I mean, the art's very clever, and it's so fun. I love Chubby Checker. Now, a lot of his songs were ones that he actually didn't write. For example, The Twist was actually done by Hank Ballard, and he made it popular. So this album came out in 1961, and it features all of Chubby Checker's, I mean, big hits. You've got Takes Two to Tango, I Could Have Danced All Night. Again, not written by him. Ballin' the Jack is one that's been around for a long time. The cool thing about some of these 50s and 60s artists is that you will see that they did a lot of people's stuff. Back then, everybody kind of shared music back and forth, and it was an honor if one group did your song. And sometimes it was a song that came out that wasn't as popular, but then this new band, like say Chubby Checker, did it with The Twist, and now all of a sudden it's a big hit and everybody loves it. So following along that theme, hi Bluegrass.
Good morning, Anthony. Thanks for joining us. Cheers.
That's a great album. It really is. Yes, good dancing music.
Do you like good dancing music?
This next album is Chubby Checker as well, and it's The Pony Time. And I love Chubby Checker. I know, maybe he's not for everybody, but I think his music is fun. This is on Parkway. It came out in 1961, and this is an original press. Again, these are records that I just got really lucky to find in antique shops or at the dollar bin. Again, nothing wrong with them. People don't think that they're going to sell because our local record stores really carry a lot of 70s, which is fantastic. But these 50s ones are fun to find, and a lot of times they're not that expensive. So It's the Pony Time. I mean, it's got so many great songs, the Holy Goalie, the Mashed Potatoes, the Charleston. I mean, you just can't go wrong with this Chubby Checker album. And again, look at the chess pieces, the checker pieces here. I think that's so clever. Whoever did the marketing and branding for that really hit that out of the park, in my opinion. So this
Absolutely.
is Chubby Checker, and you got the swing and dance party on the back.
A lot of his records were all about dancing.
They were. The one record that I find really interesting by him is The Fly. I don't know if you've heard that, but it's a very weird song because the opening sounds like a really loud buzzing fly, and it's almost annoying in my opinion. But that's the only one of his that I don't find that you could really dance to.
Yeah. Well, very cool.
And moving right along, now I have this record here by Bill Haley and the Comets, and this is a classic. This is Rock Around the Clock, and it's on Decca Records. It came out in 1955, and this happens to be an original press. Again, just got lucky on eBay for a couple of dollars. And I love Bill Haley in the comments, and you can't go wrong. This album has Rock Around the Clock, it has Razzle Dazzle, ABC Boogie, I mean, Mambo Rock. And of course, he did a lot of other people's songs as well. You just see that as a theme in the 50s. But I love this album. The graphics are really, really cool, Tanya.
I agree. Yeah. You think about the TV show Happy Days. Did that help us do that when Happy Days came out? Did his record start selling again? Did he? I don't know. I've often wondered about that.
I mean, you see that with Queen now. After the movie came out, everyone's been hot for Queen, so you can't go wrong with some promotions like that.
Absolutely. I love the 50s music so much. That's awesome. Yeah.
Me too. I love all the music.
I'm sure you found some, Katie, if you enjoy 50s music, which I think you do, I'm sure you found some unheard of music and you discovered some stuff. Like there's names that are so popular that sold a lot, that was part of pop culture, but I'm sure you probably discovered some people like, whoa, who's this? Why did
There's so many like that, and that's kind of interesting. If you again tune into Johnny G's Vinyl Treasure Show, he's the only person I know on YouTube that really specializes in 50s music. But every Saturday he has a radio show that he streams to YouTube. You can tune in. It's like at 10 o'clock. But he plays all rare 50s 45s, ones you probably have never heard of before. And that's where I learned a lot of 50s artists I didn't know. I've discovered them, and it's kind of neat to try to look for some of their records. Of course, some of them are quite a bit of money because they are rare. But in the 50s, there were thousands of groups that just were starting on the street corner, harmonizing together, especially doo-wop groups, and not all of them made it. So it's kind of fun to hear some of those unique groups.
And what's the name of this channel?
My channel is Vintage and Vinyl.
What's the name of Johnny's channel?
It's Johnny G's Vinyl Treasure Show.
Johnny
He's on YouTube, but if you're really looking to get into 50s, he's a fun broadcast to watch.
Do you dance, Katie? Do you dance all this close music?
I'm not a good dancer, but I try. And of course, when no one's watching, I'm sure that Louie and I.
I'm the best dancer in the world when no one's watching, huh? I know I am.
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Album is one I think is really cool. I found this recently in Washington, D.C. I was there before the pandemic started at the beginning of the year. And it was this little tiny record store called Joint Custody. And I was in this like basement of this person's house. It's kind of what it was. And I asked for 50s records. And a lot of times people kind of look at me strange because they don't carry that normally. But this was in their pile of records. And this is Woo-Hoo by the Rocketeens on Roulette. This came out in 1960. And I just think this is fabulous. It's an original press. But what's unique about this one is it's a Canada original press. And this is cool because it has the inspected number. So you can see, I guess, whoever in the record plant inspected this before it went out. But this is a great album. Now, the Rocketeens are kind of unique because their big hit, Woo-Hoo, really has no words to it. It's more just a get down and dance kind of song. But I really love that. And of course, they've got Doggone It Baby on here. Oh My Nerves, I Was Born to Rock. I mean, just so many great songs. And I don't know if the Rocketeens had another album. I almost think that this was it. But I thought this was a great find. And I love Rocketeens.
I love that graphic on the back. I've had that record before.
Oh, yeah.
I love that graphic. Oh, it's so cool. Stephen was saying discovering lost treasures from every decade is so fun. There's so much we miss each year. And I'm always quick to say, discover new stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Joint Custody is a great story. I follow them online. And I got to thinking I might have to move the record crate inside my house. I don't have a basement, but hey.
But, you know, it worked out really well. for these folks, it's a great little store. I really loved going there.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, these next couple of records are by Chuck Berry, which we all love Chuck Berry. He's from St. Louis, which is fun because I have family in St. Louis. And in the Delmar Loop is Blueberry Hill, which is a restaurant. And they, of course, it's a live music venue too. But Blueberry Hill is one of Chuck Berry's big songs. Of course, other people did it as well. But he has performed there many times. I wish I had gotten to see him live once because that would have been amazing. But this is the Chuck Berry I have are all original. Again, these came from an antique store, and the dealer just had them kind of chucked in a bucket under something. And I got so excited when I found these. But this is on chest. This is Rockin' at the Hops, and this is from 1960. But I love the graphics on Chuck Berry's albums. They're very simple, but they pack a punch, I think. And this has some great songs by Johnny. It's got Too Poop to Pop, Mad Lad, Betty Jean, all kinds of great songs on this record. And here is Chuck Berry's One Dozen Berries. You can see the advertisement. And I love this album cover, and I would love to find this. I don't have this record, so I'm on the lookout for it. But love Chuck Berry. This is Rockin' at the Hops. And then I've got several other Chuck Berry albums here. This one is Chuck Berry's Fresh Berries. This is probably one of my favorite Chuck Berry albums on chest here. Came out in 1965. And this has some fantastic songs. Every Day We Rock and Roll, It's My Own Business, Mustang Ford, Wee Hour Blues. I mean, you just can't go wrong with anything by Chuck Berry, in my opinion. He's just fabulous.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, let's say hello to a couple of people. Hello, Russell. Thanks for joining us. Cheers. And wait a minute. I think I said hi to Sean earlier. Hey, have you heard of the 50s Aussie group, Aussie rock and roll singer Johnny O'Keefe?
I have not, but I will be looking him up now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
New things.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then we have Love Hollis. Good morning, Love Hollis. Cheers. Thanks for joining us. This is Katie. Katie's
hello, Love.
Vintage and Vinyl. Katie, I'm gonna. Oh, and then we have One Plus Thrifting. Hey, cheers.
So great to see you this morning.
Yeah, I'm gonna get your. I'll put a link in the chat for your channel.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right.
And then more Chuck Berry, because I just can't get enough Chuck Berry. I think, as I said, his music is fabulous. This is a 1964 mono press. This is St. Louis to Liverpool. And this came from that same antique store, just again at the bottom in some crate. And so don't forget to check your antique stores if you love 50s stuff, because you're going to find some neat things. And again, the pressings were, I would say, in almost excellent condition, like they had never been played. But this has No Particular Place to Go, which is one of my other favorite Chuck Berry songs. Go Bobby Soxer, Things I Used to Do, Liverpool Drive. I mean, the hits on this album are phenomenal. And there's Chuck Berry on the back. And of course, you'll hear in a lot of Chuck Berry songs, he mentions St. Louis, and that's because that's where he's from, which is fun. To go, especially if you go in St. Louis, if you love Chuck Berry, go to the Delmar Loop where I mentioned that restaurant was in the live venue. Of course, you can also go and see all of these statues, and they have all kinds of things. The whole area is this little cool arts community, and it's all for Chuck Berry. And there's a great record store, Vintage Vinyl, that's like a little warehouse. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Vintage Vinyl, but it's got some great stuff. This next Chuck Berry record is Jukebox Hits. And I love the little Starburst graphics here on the front of this album. This came out in 1961, and it is an original mono press. And I just think that he is fabulous. This has 13 Question Method, Don't You Lie to Me, Sweet 16, which is another one of my favorite songs, Route 66. I mean, This is fabulous. And you can see, advertisements for some of his other albums there. And one thing I love about older album jackets is how they put them together. You can see here that it's this nice, really thick cardboard, and then I guess they use some sort of glue to attach this back information panel. But I just think they're sturdier. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I really love the older, thicker jackets.
Yeah, let's say hello to Johnny, Cajun Roots Reseller. Cheers,
Hi,
Johnny.
John.
Thanks for joining us. He loves some Chuck Berry also. And then Russell had a question. Is Beautiful Delilah on that one?
Let me check. No, it is not on this one. And I know the song, but I don't know which Chuck Berry that is off of. I don't think it's on. It's not on Liverpool, St. Louis to Liverpool. Let me check Fresh Berries here. No, and it's not. I don't think it's on Rockin' at the Hops. Let me see here.
I
No,
like that title, Beautiful Delilah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's on the Chuck Berry's Dozen Berries albums, but I could be wrong about that. That's one I don't have yet.
There you go. Katie, was Berry's Route 66 a cover of an older song or of the TV theme, or is it an original tune?
Yes, it's a cover of the original Route 66 song, and it's escaped me who wrote that song. I'd have to look that up again. It's been a minute. But yes, that is a cover, and you see that with some of Chuck Berry's things, but a lot of the stuff Chuck Berry did was original. He's one of the only, I shouldn't say only, but he's special in the fact that he wrote his, oh, thank you, Stephen. That he wrote his own music and the lyrics. So that's kind of, you don't see a lot of that in the 50s with certain bands. A lot of people did covers of other songs. So Chuck Berry's kind of unique in that way.
Katie, I put a link in the chat to your channel. Now, you enjoy records, you enjoy music, but there's other things that's on your channel. Give us a quick tease.
So I do records every Friday. I've got my What's Spinning videos that come out on my channel, but I also love vintage. So I do all things vintage. I talk glass. If you love Fostoria glass, vintage advertisements, love Coca-Cola. As you can see, I've got a collection of Coca-Cola trays, and I think it's fun to talk vintage as well. So every week I have 3 videos that come out, and you can check for records, vintage, and then on Mondays, I'm also reading a 1953 saucy romance novel because that's kind of fun to see what was in something from the 1950s. So I read that every Monday. That's Katie and Her Camera by Louis Holbert, and then the rest of the week is vintage and vinyl content. So there's lots of things for everybody on my channel.
Oh, cool. Bobby Troop?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'd like to hear that. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
I just subbed. There you go to somebody. Kurt just subbed to you.
Thank you, Kurt.
Just add your channel to my list, Katie.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Anthony says that John Lennon says if they renamed rock and roll, they would call it Chuck Berry.
Yes, I know John Lennon talks a lot about Chuck Berry, and he admired him a lot. I think he got a lot of his inspiration from him. He's kind of the big person when you think rock and roll next to Elvis and maybe Fats Domino.
And then from the Beatles people, we learned that John Lennon played with Chuck Berry, so that was really cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
Bobby Tripp was... as Russell stated, many people know him by his role in the 1970s TV series Emergency, alongside his wife, Julie London. Yes, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I can just imagine your home looking vintage. My sister loves vintage. I love vintage. I like vintage, but I'm more mid-century modern. My house is just full of all that craziness like that.
Mid-century modern is fun. I have a industrial theme going on, but I love mid-century modern.
I love industrial. I like atomic, like you were talking about the Starburst. I love that kind of stuff too. Not all. I sell vintage on eBay and antique booths on my channel. Yeah. Hey, good morning, Chris. Cheers. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Chris.
She's got a really cool story about her hat, Chris.
I do.
Yeah.
Most of my hats are vintage, and I love wearing hats. But my grandfather, when he passed away, I got all of his hats and his dad's hats. So I've been enjoying wearing them. They're really fun.
Yeah. I love how you pull those kind of facts out of the air. I played his version of Girl Talk for my wife. She hit the roof. Not happy with the lyrics at all. Uh-oh. I'm going to have to go listen to that myself so I can get it going on.
Some of the 50s advertisements or 50s songs, you listen to them and they're very fun, but you think, man, that's not at all how today is. It wouldn't fly in today's world.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You're so right, Stephen. Yeah. Some things just won't sell anymore. Like it's difficult for certain china to sell these days, as I understand, like a full set.
Well,
All
people
right, Katie, take it away.
moving away from fancier things that you have to polish or hand wash. The dishwasher is our friend. But this next album is by the Marcells. They are a really neat group from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And this is on Colpix. And this is one of their original albums. This is Blue Moon, arguably probably their most biggest hit. This came out in 1961. Great doo-wop group. And again, it has this inspected by number, which I'm kind of fascinated with. I don't know why all records didn't have this, but some of mine do. So I find that kind of neat. But this, of course, has Blue Moon, A Fallen Tear, Over the Rainbow. And Over the Rainbow is a song that you see a lot of groups doing. It's just kind of a classic song, and everyone has their own take on it. And out of all the covers of Over the Rainbow, the Marcells probably are my favorite. I mean, the Del Vikings did it too, but they didn't do it, I don't think, as well. I love the Del Vikings, but this is their album Blue Moon on Colpix, and the images are really great. These vintage graphics. I mean, I've talked about this on
Amazing.
a lot, but I'm just a sucker for vintage graphics.
I've had that record before, Katie, and I wanted to keep it just because of the cover. I mean, I don't know, but it looks like it came out of Bauhaus. I don't know who did it, but you know, that particular painting looks like a Joseph Albers or something like that. I have no idea who did it. The other thing, Katie, when I've seen Inspected before, I couldn't help but wonder if that was something that they would stamp before we got promo stamps, and like they wanted it inspected to make sure it was okay before it went to a radio station, before it went to someone who would write for the press, before it went to an executive or something like that. Don't know. It's just a guess.
I'll have to look more into that because that's just fascinating if that's the case.
If you find out, let us know. I love Blue Moon. Blue Moon. Yeah.
Okay. Great album. Now, the next album is by the Platters, and it has kind of a neat story. Most people probably don't know this when they look at the album cover because it's called The Flying Platters, but there's a reason it's called The Flying Platters. Now, this came out in 1962, and I have the stereo press. I don't have the mono press. But this album is really cool because it's called The Flying Platters. Now, the reason it's called The Flying Platters is because quite literally the Platters at this time were having to go on the fly because they were going between their concerts and their live appearances to record this album. They only had 1 week to rehearse this in between shows. They were in New York getting ready for their big show, and they had to go to basements to practice, and then they only had a day and a half to record this whole album before they flew off to London for their international tour. So this is a really cool album with a great story behind it. So, and it tells you a little bit more about the story here on the back, but this is just cool. I love, and I'll take it out because I think the plastic there makes it a little harder to see. But look at the graphics on this. This was on Mercury Wing. And of course, it has No Power on Earth, Time and Tide, Oh Promise Me, Don't Forget. So many fantastic Platter songs. You can't go wrong with the Platters if you love doo-wop.
Oh yeah. Wow, that's very cool. Being
A
dog
group
band.
out of LA.
Yeah. Speaking of vintage, I was sharing with my daughter, age 21, and a big Stones fan, how artists like Chuck Berry heavily influenced British artists like the Beatles and the Stones. I agree with you there, Chris.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's amazing how other artists influenced music. I mean, all different styles of music. You see country with some of that early rock and roll, but also the blues influence. There's just so many things that are really, really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next album is another Platters, and the graphics on this are pretty amazing. I think. Now, this is a stereo press. It is an original. And what's kind of interesting is in 1957, stereo was introduced to the world. And so a lot of times you could either get stereo or mono at the same time. So an album would come out and you got the choice whether you wanted stereo or mono. And it did take people a while to catch on to stereo. So actually, I have a record here. I'll just show it quickly. But this is a demonstration on stereo, and this is Living Sounds in Space. It came out by RCA Victor, and this would be kind of like a demonstration record at your local store promoting stereo.
I have one of those in my listening library. It's a wonderful record. Plus, it's Living Stereo, Katie, and I'm sure you're going to tell a little bit about Living Stereo.
Yes, it's amazing, and I love this album because it is so clear the difference. They start out where you can hear mono and they explain mono a little bit, and then it goes into stereo. And basically, they were explaining to people back in the day that stereo, you were getting more of a full sound. So it wasn't like you were getting everything from one channel, but the instruments were split up and they were going through two channels. And so you were hearing this more full surround type sound. And on this record, you can hear them promoting that, but you can definitely hear the clear difference between the two and why people were switching to stereo. So that's kind of fun. But this album also came out, this Platters record came out in mono as well in the same time. So you can get the stereo or mono press. And I think it would be fun to get the mono press of this just to hear the difference. Now, I don't have a mono cartridge, so technically, I guess I'm not hearing true mono, but it is fun to play these records, whether they're mono or stereo. And this Platters album, as I mentioned, the graphics are just everything. But this has some fantastic songs. You've got I'll Be With You in Apple Blossom Time. Now, also, you probably recognize that song because a couple of other groups did it, including the group that, and I'm just blanked on their name, the Andrews Sisters. They did this song as well, and that was one of their big famous hits. So you've got that, you've got Orchids and Moonlight, Trees, Tumbling Tumbleweeds, Lullaby of the Leaves. Great doo-wop album here. And again, look at the graphics on the front of this. Just very, very clever, in my opinion, on Mercury. This came out in 1961, and the Platters are a great group.
So TC, you don't have to have a mono cartridge, but if you purchase a mono cartridge and you have a mono player, there's just so much information, and you read conflicting stories. But if you have a Rolling Stones mono, you put on your stereo player, you're going to listen to it in mono. It's just that with the mono cartridges, it's not two sides to the cartridge receiving the information and transmitting it to your phono preamp. But there's really something special about getting a mono cartridge and connecting that to a mono. I mean, Frank Sinatra had an empire with a monocart, and he had one speaker. And you can read all sorts of information online about Frank Sinatra's hi-fi, and it's amazing to read. But if you have a mono record, pop it on your player and enjoy it. And if you have a stereo, do the same thing. But Katie, I'm with you. I like to hear a shout out between the Platters mono and stereo to hear the difference in the sound. I do that a lot when I get records that are mono versus stereo, just to see how different they sound. And sometimes there's nuances that you're like, whoa, I didn't hear that before.
Yeah, I'd like to test the difference, but yeah, you don't need a mono cartridge. I mean, I'm sure that it does make a difference, but they're very expensive. So I'm not willing to spend $500 on a mono cartridge. I could spend that on records. And to me, it's about the music.
Absolutely. It could be. It could be a novel thing. It could be like, look what I got. But at the end of the day, hey, listen to these records, listen to the music, folks, and enjoy it. Don't concern yourself about what you don't have. Enjoy what you do have.
Enjoy the records.
Yeah.
So the next album is one that I was really excited to find. This is so cool. This is an original mono of the Duke of Earl on VJ Records, VJ label. And this is just a classic song. And it's on, if you have a 50s on 5 subscription, the Sirius XM radio. When I'm not able to be my vinyl, I do listen to that in the car. And this song comes on, and it is always a hit in my book. So this has Duke of Earl, Stand By Me, which again wasn't written by Gene Chandler, but a lot of other people covered it because it's so classic. Kissin' in the Kitchen is on here, which is another one of my favorite Gene Chandler songs. Of course, he's the Duke of Earl. And they marketed him in this sort of costume here and called him the Duke of Earl, and it took off. So they kept him that way. And I think that's interesting. But I don't know how many other albums Gene Chandler had. But I do know that this is probably one of his most famous, because everybody knows Duke of Earl.
That is a good one. Absolutely. Hey, let's say good morning to Ron. Good morning, Ron. Thanks for joining us. T says, do us a favor. Don't tell Carson about it. We'll never hear the end of it. Hee. Katie, I didn't share with you information about Carson, but if he shows up, he's going to ask you, what's your favorite Rush record? And so there you go. Uh-oh. Too late. Good morning, Carson.
That's funny because I have a brother named Carson. So for a split second, how did you know my brother?
There you go. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, Katie, what's your favorite Rush record? Let's just go ahead and get it out in the open.
Actually, I don't know that I have a favorite. I love Rush. A couple of their songs are really great, but I don't actually own any Rush records. I just hear them sort of in passing, and they're on the radio a lot, so I enjoy that.
Yeah. If people ever ask me that, I'll usually say, I kind of like the first one best.
That's the easiest thing to say, right?
Oh, there you go. All right, Katie. Thanks for showing the Duke of Earl. I really like that song. It's just amazing to hear it. And I've had that record before. I've sold it. And I always think it's neat just to hear a record. I mean, like there's one song but to play the whole thing and just listen to the entire content. Yeah.
You get to hear songs that, you fall in love with that you wouldn't have.
Absolutely. All right, Katie. Here you go.
Okay, so I talked about this record and actually your chat a couple of nights ago when you had the cocktails and vinyl. So I pulled it because I thought it would be fun to show. But I have a couple of Flamingos albums, and the Flamingos are kind of hard to find, especially in good condition. I think a lot of these 50s records were mainly in attics, like after, their parents passed away or their grandparents, they just kind of get shoved into a box somewhere and they weren't taken care of. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but a lot of them are. So it's hard to find things that are playable. And a lot of times when you go on Discogs or eBay, you see these in like G+ shape and people are wanting enormous amounts of money. And I was really lucky to get this Flamingos Serenade album. This is an original mono press from 1959, which is fabulous. This is a group out of Chicago called the Flamingos. And this is Flamingos Serenade. in color. Now the repress of this that came out later will be black and white, but this is on end, and this is fabulous. So this has Love Walk In, Time Was, Goodnight Sweetheart, But Not For Me, which is one of my favorites. And then, of course, I Only Have Eyes For You, which is a big, big Flamingos hit. And I'm sure other people did that song as well, but this is fabulous. Flamingo Serenade on end. And going along with the Flamingos, I've got their other bigger album. This is Requestfully Yours on end by the Flamingos. And this came out in 1960. And this is Requestfully Yours. Look at the flamingo graphics on there. Very simple, but very clever. And I love the way that their font, I'm pointing in the wrong spot. Their font is up here with the colors. So this has In the Still of the Night, which a couple of other bands did this as well. And for the life of me, I can't remember who else did In the Still of the Night. But great song. Nobody Loves Me Like You, Tenderly, At Night, You'll Never Walk Alone. So many good Flamingos hits. There's something about the Flamingos and their voice, their sound, that's just really unique and fun. Oh, you've got Flamingos.
Yeah. And then this is a reissue. I have this one.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
I don't have that one yet. Fabulous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There you go. So it's neat to find cool things like that. That's for sure. Yeah. Oh, comments are getting away from us. Do you find yourself listening to different songs to match your moods? Of course.
Yeah, I think so. It depends what you're in the mood for that day.
I'm in the mood for love. When my daughter was an infant, the only song that would comfort her when she was cranky was I Only Have Eyes For You by Flamingos. Oh, that's very cool.
Oh, very cool.
Does she like it now, Ron?
Yeah, the cover is really nice.
To this day, when I play the song, she stops and just kind of sits there like, I know that song. Yeah, I only have eyes for you. There you go, Miss Katie.
Great song. Love the Flamingos. And this Flamingo Serenade was a fun find because it was only $14 in VG Flush shape. So you can't beat that. I think that's fantastic.
That is good.
Now, with the doo-wop theme, because I do love doo-wop so much, is I got some Dion and the Belmonts recently on vinyl, which is exciting. These are original mono pressings, and I think they're just awesome. This is Wish Upon a Star by Dion and the Belmonts.
Oh, wow.
This is on Laurie, which is very cool. And this, of course, has Wish Upon a Star. They did In the Still of the Night. That's right. That's on this album as well. Swinging Star, It's Only a Paper Moon, which that's a really fun song. This is a great album. I like to listen to this at night when you're just kind of relaxing. It's very calming, relaxing sound that they have. But Dion and the Belmonts are great. And this came out in 1960. And they are from New York. It's a group out of New York. And I believe like a lot of these groups that form, they met at their high school. They all went to high school together. So that's how a lot of some of these groups were formed. This is also Dion and the Belmonts. But look at this cover. This is their other record on Laurie. Let's see, there's a comment here. Oh,
Do
yeah.
bands like the Four Tops, the Flamingos, the OJs, the Drifters, the Platters even exist anymore?
So the Flamingos, I believe that there's a few people from that group still alive. And the Platters, there's only one living person from that group. And actually, they're coming to Jacksonville. Now, I know that it's not the whole group, but it's one of the lead singers still alive. And he will be live in concert with the rest of the new Platters and the Four Tops are coming, and they have one original member left. So it's the Platters and the Four Tops that will be in concert. I have tickets, but the pandemic has delayed it. So hopefully next year they'll be back. Frankie Valli is also coming as well, who's another one of my very favorite singers.
Are you referring to the Mike Sweeney? Or are you referring to the Johnny G's Vinyl Treasure Show? If that's the one, I can definitely put that in there. Put this in the chat for you, Mike.
Yeah. You can look him up on YouTube, and I know that you can link that for everybody, because he's got some really rare records from the 50s, which are just so fun to listen to.
I was referring to Band of Today. I'm not sure I follow that, Chris. The bands like the Four Tops, the Flamingos, the AJs, the Drifters, do they even exist anymore?
Are you asking if they're popular still today?
And then I was referring to Band of Today. Chris, I don't know exactly, but sometimes I think of those groups. I mean, like Katie says, there's one person, and then there's some bands that will go out and play, and there's not even an original member in the band at all, and I think they're just keeping the name alive sometimes, and sometimes it's like a tribute. But I mean, Katie, would you go see the Flamingos with just one person in it?
I would.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
opportunity.
And sometimes, yeah. So, Chris, if we're answering that question correct, if we're not, yeah. Who would be the modern groups today? Oh, so who's a group today that you would like, Katie, that would be like the Four Tops, the Flamingos? Yeah. First thing I think about is the Daptones and that label Daptones. I just think about them doing so much cool music. Katie?
That's a hard question to answer. Oh man. If you're equating them to the Four Tops or the Platters or the Drifters, I don't know that there's a group today like that, in my opinion. But I love Billy Joel's not modern. He's modern, but he's not, 2020. But I love Billy Joel.
Yeah.
So many groups.
There was a CD I sold recently that a guy had a very soulful sound. Yeah. So, hey, anybody, chime in if you know of a contemporary band that's doing sounds like from the 50s and 60s. Yeah. Please do. Help us. Let's see. I got to catch up on some chat here. Hey, good morning, Alan C. Records.
Hey,
cheers. Everyone, this is Katie, Vintage and Vinyl, and she's hanging out with us today. Let's see.
Yes, Duke of Earl is fabulous. You cannot go wrong with that song at all.
Yeah. Music like that today. I mean, the first thing I think about is Daptone. Daptone. Yeah, anyway. Who would be considered the Four Tops today for today's generation? If we were to look at it that way. Maybe K-pop? Would K-pop be like that? I mean, not the sound, but the whole idea?
I mean, because they are a group and they are very popular. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah. Are the Coasters still alive? How many of the Coasters are still alive?
Laura, I'll have to double check this with Google or Discogs, but I don't think any of the Coasters, to my knowledge, are still alive. Unfortunately, a lot of the groups from that time, they had issues with drug and alcohol problems, and a lot of the band members just aren't alive anymore, sadly.
Yeah. The Five Satins were the original group that did In the Still of the Night.
Right, the Five Satins. And I have a Five Satins album, but it is a compilation album. Their stuff is really hard to find original.
Yeah. Chris was saying that was 20 years ago, TC. I think Michael Bublé is trying to keep it alive. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that for sure,
You
Laura.
said it's a Saturday show.
Yeah,
Um,
at 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. here on YouTube, but it's also on TopShelfOldies.com. I think that's where you can see it live if you don't check on YouTube. But YouTube, you get the video, so you get to see the picture of the 45s and all of that.
is that Johnny?
That's Johnny G's Vinyl Treasures.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Clarify.
They just had 2 top 40 hits, and last year they sell out Vegas every time they play there. Backstreet Boys are still very much in it now. Oh,
Yep, they
there
are.
you
They're
go.
here.
Yeah, there's a cover band that sounds like old school jazzy blues, postmodern jukebox. I've heard postmodern jukebox. Yeah. What's your favorite? Never mind. My brother. Oh, cool. Saxophone. Very
Really
cool.
cool.
I think I found it, guys. Oh, cool.
Awesome, Mike.
I have seen the coaster several. Oh, you have. Very cool.
Love to see the coasters, Laura.
Hey, do we say hi to Jenny? If we didn't, hey Jenny.
So good. I love The Still of the Night. Fantastic song.
I love Sharon and the Daptones. I miss her. Yeah, I'm sad that I never saw her live. But Chris, if you haven't heard of Sharon Jones, oh my gosh, what a treasure we had for a little while, sitting in the park.
Lots of great comments coming in, guys.
Carson, there's always things to look forward to, man. If you set your goals and work hard toward it, you can become a bubble. Yeah, Dap Kings, and Dap Tone is the label, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is music appreciation for Carson. I need to get my turn my hours in and get paid from his school. Dap Tone is a label. Yeah. But yeah. I do need a hat like that. I do have, actually it might be in the car, but because of my vision, I now have to wear a baseball cap when I'm driving the Roadster. So it might be in the, yeah. Oh, Billy Stewart's. Do you like him?
Great music.
I drove down to the bridge where he died.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. I sure did. So, Chris, if you go and look for Sharon Jones and the Dap Tones, I think that's right. That's good stuff. I'm just not prepared. I could have mentioned several things. Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, and the label is Dap Tone Records.
I will add that to something on my list to look up.
Mm-hmm. Chris lives in Smithfield, and that's where the bridge is. Yeah. And when I learned about it, I had to drive down there and see the bridge. Stop enabling that.
In New York and see where some of these artists were. Frankie Lemon and the Teenagers, you can go see his house. He died way too early, unfortunately.
And Clyde McFadder is right from up the road here.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm in Raleigh, which is beside Durham. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Did Rod Stewart make some? He did. He also did some song. What was that? Rod Stewart songwriters. Did a lot of jazz standards. Yeah. 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 So there we go. All right, Katie. Sorry about that.
No worries. It's fun responding to comments. So this is Dion and the Belmonts that I just showed, but I wanted to show you the back. This has I Wonder Why, A Teenager in Love, which is probably one of the Belmonts' biggest hits. That's on the radio a ton. Great, great song. A Funny Feeling. I've cried before. No One Knows. I mean, there is just something about this tight-knit harmonizing in these doo-wop groups that are just really fascinating and amazing to me. So we've got Dion and the Belmonts. Now the next album is one I think is fun to find. This is from 1957, and this is a group from Canada called the Diamonds. You all probably know them because of their song Little Darlin'. And this is an original mono press on Mercury. And this is fun here. So this record here has Girl of Mine and then my all-time favorites Diamond song, which is Zip Zip here on this album. I know that the Diamonds hit song was Little Darling, but I do love Zip Zip. Cool, Cool Baby, the Till My Baby Comes Home, Oh How I Wish, so many good things. And I love the album art when they include pictures of them in the recording studio. I always find that really fascinating. So there's the
I do
album
too. I like that too.
for the Diamonds, and this came out in 1957. And then I have another Diamonds album. This is a mono press as well with their hit song, Little Darlin'. Oh, good question. The oldest record in my collection. Let me see. I'd have to think about that because I have so much 50s, and that's probably, I'll tell you, the oldest I probably have is from the Chordettes. I have a box set of the Chordettes from, I think it's 1948. It doesn't have any of their major hit songs. This was like back when they were doing barbershop quartet type stuff before they made it big. And I have that, and it's from 1948. So that's probably the oldest I have.
Wow. Wow. Do you have any 78s? Do you have any?
I do. So I have a couple of Chordette 78s. Unfortunately, I can't play them because my record player doesn't do 78s. And I'm preparing for another record show, and so I've pulled some things. But this is a unique 78 by the Gaylords. It's on Mercury, and this is a Flexi 78, which they would give a lot of times to DJs because they were easier to store and they were lightweight. So I don't know if this is a DJ press or not, but I think this is a really cool Flexi 78 by the Gaylords. It's got Sweet Sue and Wondering, and I wish I could play this because I think that would be so neat.
Absolutely. Here's a link for Sharon Jones song, one of my favorites by her, and so you guys can check it out. Chris, I'll put my thoughts together later and see if I can share with you some stuff one morning on Coffee and Vinyl about contemporary artists who are doing traditional early rock, rockabilly, soul, doo-wop kind of stuff. Yeah, or something that would be in comparison to that today. Yeah.
Yeah, expensive. Very expensive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My aunt loved that kind of music.
Yeah, the Chordettes, man, there's just something about them.
So sometimes you can buy an inexpensive turntable or a record player and it has a 78 setting. I really recommend you don't do that until you get the proper 78 stylus for it because, yeah, there you go. And if you have the Victrola style, make sure that you change your needle every time you play one side of a record and put a new one on. Put a new needle when you flip the record over. There's a coating on the tip that actually wears when you play it. And if it doesn't have that coating anymore, it just starts digging into your 78 records. But there are some 78s that are vinyl. Katie needs us to, oh gosh. There you go, Katie. 100 Days, 100 Nights is my favorite, Chris. I can't remember. Thank you so much. Have a good bye.
So yes, a lot of times you see on the Crosley record players, which I'm not saying, I try not to say anything bad, but they're not great. But they have a 78 setting and they have that plastic needle and the really cheap cartridge. And people say, oh yeah, that's perfect for playing 78s. And I'm like, ooh, that's really going to scratch up your record.
It will play 78 and you'll be able to hear it, but I suggest not to. But Crosley, so I'm a Crosley dealer. There's my wonderful Crosley right there. I know Scott, the owner of Crosley, and he's been very supportive of independent record stores, and he's one of the sponsors for Record Store Day drops this year. However, with that said, if you do have a Crosley Cruiser or any other Crosleys and and it does play 78s. Make sure you get the proper stylus before you do that, folks, to make sure your 78s are best protected. And I realize a lot of 78s we find today are just like drug through the mud.
They
But,
are.
yeah. So, but it's neat to find them. I have a tabletop wind up, and I ordered hundreds of needles on there, so it's fun to play that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Wrenches, that's right, to keep all those trolls away. Yeah, Crosley did make a really cool Record Store Day exclusive mini turntable that's clear for this year for the Record Store Day drops, which was really fun.
Yeah, RSD 2020. Yeah, I got one and I made a video. I had it before they were released. Scott sent it to me early. And so that's a fun one, that's for sure. And yeah, they're fun. They're novel. Johnny, I'm glad that you know about that. So congratulations on protecting your 78s. Yeah, there you go. All right, Katie, there we go.
So we've got the Diamonds here. This is their Mercury Wing release for Little Darlin'. This is an original mono press from 1959. And this is fantastic. Now, look at the image on the back. I just love that. But you've got, of course, Little Darlin'. You've got Ka-Ding Dong. You've got Silhouettes. Now, the Rays also did the Silhouettes, and the song Silhouettes, and I believe that they were the first ones, but I could be wrong. But lots of other groups performed Silhouettes. Daddy Cool. I mean, there is just tons of fabulous music on this Diamonds record. Now, the next record is one that I think is kind of fun. It's by the Four Preps. They are a quartet from Hollywood, California. And just like many of the groups from the 50s, they met in high school. They all went to the same high school in Hollywood, California. And this is their original on Capitol. This is the Four Preps, self-titled. And the album art on the back, I think, is really cool. But this has 26 Miles, Dreamy Eyes, which of course is one of their big songs, Humble Pie, Too Young for Love, lots of great things on this Four Preps album. And again, the construction of these jackets to me are really nice. This is extremely thick cardboard, and there's just something about that. That's, to me, the quality of stuff from the 50s just can't be matched, you know. Now, this next album is one by the Four Preps as well, and this is probably my favorite Four Preps cover. This is from 1959. It's a mono original on Capitol, and this is Dancin' and Dreamin' by the
Ooh.
Great album art. And
that's me in the top right corner.
There you go on the back. Now, this has All I Have to Do Is Dream, which is a great song. I also believe that several other groups did this. All I Have to Do Is Dream, and I think the Crew Cuts did it as well. I could be wrong, but I mean, a lot of music was just shared back then. This has I'll Be Around, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, which also the Platters did, and they were well known for. So lots of great music by the Four Preps here.
How would you describe the sound of the Four Preps?
They're interesting. I mean, they have a little bit of that kind of doo-wop sound, but they're also a little bit folky sometimes. That's the best way I can describe them. You have to listen to them, and all of their songs are slightly different.
Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy the music of the Four Freshmen?
Yes, I have a couple of Four Freshmen albums, and I love them.
Oh, very cool.
The one I have, I think, is the Four Freshmen on Campus, and it features their song Touchdown USA.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Jeannie, you also, so yeah, wonderful choices there. Music choice or Sirius XM. Gosh, I haven't visited the radio stations online in forever, but YouTube also has a lot of cool stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's a question from Carson. Lots of us record listeners, or whatever you want to call us, have a record that will take crazy careful care of. Not that you don't care for all of them. Is there? What's your favorite? There's a fire. I'm taking one record out of the house.
I would probably say my Chuck Berry, and it would have to be more than one. It would probably be my Chuck Berry originals. Those are really special to me. There's so many though that I have. The Flamingos album, for one, is hard to get. So that Flamingo Serenade be coming with me as well. Um, but I mean, it would be hard. I think about that a lot because we have hurricanes here, and I think, oh man, if I had to
Oh
evacuate,
yeah,
I couldn't take all of my records with me. I would have to pick just a few, and that would be so hard to pick.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that would be sad. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean there, Katie. That would be really sad. Um, cool stuff there, says Carson. Katie, we're over the 1 hour mark, which is no problem. But hey, Katie, why don't you grab three more records to share with us, and then we'll have to talk about part two.
Perfect. I'd love to. And it's funny because I actually have three left in the stack. So this is perfect. It worked out so well.
That is
So
awesome.
someone mentioned the Drifters in the chat, and I happen to have a Drifters record here. Now, this is not an original, it is a reissue from 1966.
Save the
But
last.
Save the Last Dance for Me. This is on Atlantic, and this is a group from New York, from the Bronx. The original came out in 1962, and this has Save the Last Dance for Me, I Count the Tears, No Sweet Lovin', Nobody for Me, all kinds of fantastic Drifter songs. And they have a really unique sound, very deep sound. In their music, but I love the Drifters. And again, I don't know how many of them are alive. I don't know if any of them are actually alive today, but if they are, if they're still touring, I would go in a heartbeat.
My introduction to the Drifters, around here we have something called beach music, and they got put in the beach music category. There's a dance associated with the beach music called shag. I don't know. So, Katie, do you shag? I remember going to parties and shagging, and I remember at camp shagging with Emily Proctor. So there you go.
That's
And there was a time in the 80s where you could not escape beach music around here. We had a band called the Embers, and they just made it happen. They were like the house party band for the area.
That's fun. No, I'm not a dancer, but I try anyway when nobody's looking.
There you go.
These next two albums are ones that I wanted to share because they're not original and they're not very expensive. But a lot of these 50s groups are hard to get either original or on vinyl at all without the prices being crazy expensive. Now, you can find good 50s stuff within antique stores and the dollar bin and record stores. I mean, don't discount those places if you love 50s. You never know what you're going to find. But some stuff can just be really hard to get. And I love the Penguins, but their original album is insanely hard to find. I've never found it online. And the one listing that I saw not too long ago on Discogs was asking $900 for it, which to me, I'd rather just get a whole bunch of albums instead of just the one. But this is the Cool Penguins. Now, this release kind of a mystery because I don't know. They don't say on the back when it was reissued, and it's not online anywhere. So I don't know if this is like a bootleg of the Penguins, or if this is a reissue from the 70s or 90s. I'm not really sure, but I will say this sounds really good. And this is the Cool Penguins. Now, the original will have this beautiful blue color design, and this is black and white. This is on Duto Records. And I have to say, this sounds really good. I was a little skeptical. Sometimes you are when it comes to reissues and things that are kind of compilation, but I was really impressed with it.
Sorry. Hey, Katie, what color's the inside of the jacket for the Penguins?
The jacket, it's brown, and
It's
the
brown. Okay.
label is that classic Duto
Just a
label.
second, I'm gonna highlight you.
Dutone, there it is. And a lot of these reissues make it look very similar to the original. So you have to
They
pay
do.
attention to those details because I have seen people listing this online at like $150, which this certainly is not worth that. But
Sometimes the color of the inside of the jacket tells us a story too.
oh, interesting. I've never thought about looking at
If,
that.
if you think about it, be careful, don't tear it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
if you
what?
think about it, in the 70s and 80s, we have a lot of jackets. The inside is white.
Oh, I've never
You,
noticed that, but I'm gonna have to
you,
be looking for that.
yeah, yeah. You'll notice that next time you're exploring. And sometimes people will write their name there. What was that label again?
Do
Dutone?
Now it's interesting because this says Duto, and that's what the original Penguins album has, but the inside
Oh,
says Dutone on the label here. So I'm not 100% sure much about that. But this has Cold Heart, Sweet Love, Butterball, which is a really fun Penguin song. That's How Much I Need You, If You're Mine. Lots of great Penguins classics on this. And it's really, really worth picking up, I think, for a couple of dollars, especially if you can't get the Penguins on.
yeah, absolutely.
And this is another example of one compilation album I think is really great. This is a Nutmegs, which I love the Nutmegs, but their original 45s are really tough to find in good condition and for a decent price. So I got this greatest hits compilation of the Nutmegs. This
Oh,
Harold's Present, which I think Harold was the original label that they came out on, and this is Leroy Griffin and the Nutmegs. Um, Now they are a group from New Haven, Connecticut, and I love the yellow label here. But this has some fantastic songs. We've got Story Untold, which of course is the Nutmeg's biggest hit, probably. Betty Lou, My Story, Shifting Sands, Gift of a Gavin Woman. I mean, great Nutmegs. And if you listen to 50s on 5 or any of them, you'll hear Story Untold come on a lot because it's very popular. But this is a compilation album from 1990. Now, what's interesting about the Nutmegs is they had a bunch of different aliases. So you'll see some of their original stuff is spelled differently. So you might have the Nut and then space Megs, or different things were Leroy Griffin and the Nutmegs, or the Rajas, which is their original name. And a lot of times, bands from the 50s did change their names, or the groups kept shifting a lot. You'd see original members and then they'd leave. And there's all kinds of stuff like that. And there's whole websites dedicated to people figuring out on what recording, what band members were in certain recordings, which I think is kind of fun to do a deep dive into that.
that is interesting. Very cool. Yeah.
And the last record I'm going to share is one that I think is very cool. This is Frankie Valli. This is one of his albums when he went solo. So this isn't Frankie
Oh,
Valli
yeah.
Four Seasons. But what's really cool about this is the album cover itself moves. And I love when there's different attention to detail. But you can see here the album is called Timeless. And there's different seasons that go around here. And you can move this little wheel and you've got all different graphics inside, which this is probably one of my most fun interactive albums. And Frankie Valli has a really interesting solo career. His music's very different, I think, especially on this album than some of his stuff that they did as a group with the Four Seasons. This album is kind of sad, in my opinion. It's very melancholy, but I like it. Make the Music Play. September Rain is a great song by the time I get to Phoenix. And you can see there's a lot of great things inside. This is just a well designed album cover, I think, on Phillips. And this is easy to find. I mean, there's a bunch of copies of this around. Very.
Psychedelic. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Kurt said he found that Penguins listed as a 60s reissue on Disco GS.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very helpful.
That Cook, want them too. Wow.
This is a cool,
That's
very
cool. I want them too. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
and
What's that? What record store did that come from originally? I see a little sticker on there.
this came from Vintage Vinyl in St. Louis in the Delmar Loop,
Oh,
which is one of my favorite vinyl stores to visit. Of course, I haven't been to all of them, but St. Louis, the Delmar Loop with the whole Chuck Berry area is really fun to me. And Vintage and Vinyl, I say Vintage and Vinyl because that's my channel name. Vintage Vinyl is a great, like a small little warehouse of records, and they have everything really well organized. And I have found more 50s stuff in there than other record stores, and this was in there for only
oh wow.
$7.99, but it was half off day, so I didn't pay a ton of money for this. They have
Yeah.
that a lot at that store. If you're ever in St. Louis, we're checking them out.
Are you close to Bananas?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry, the audio cut out there.
Oh, it's okay. Are you close to the record store Bananas?
No, I don't think so. I'm in Florida. So we have a couple of record stores here. We have Eraser Records and Yesterday and Today's Records, and then Young, Loud, and Snotty. Bye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can I ask a non-music cross? I see the coffee. What's your favorite? Each of you guess it's a good match. Good music. I guess it has to match good music. There's so many coffees I enjoy. But right here on the below Katie, you'll see Chameleon Organic Cold Brew. I love that. I love cold brew. And that's a company. I think they're out of Texas, but I pick them up locally. And but at the same time, I'm always grabbing and brewing and blah, 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 blah. So there you go. There you go. What about you, Katie?
I love espresso, but I love all coffee. I mean, but espresso is my favorite. So that's always fun. Starbucks has good coffee. You have to let me know whether you're a Dunkin' or Starbucks person. That's always the hot debate. But I
Yeah.
love my Starbucks espresso.
Starbucks is consistent no matter where you go.
It's
Yeah.
true. Dunkin'
Yeah.
Donuts isn't, in my opinion.
Peace, Chris. Take care.
Bye,
Thanks for
Chris.
speaking. I think Bananas is in Florida.
We're in Florida. I'll have to make a trip to it if it's nearby. I love exploring.
Could be Jacksonville. I'm not sure. I didn't think about it until now, but I think they have like a store here and a store here, and they call it a warehouse. St. Petersburg.
Oh yeah, that's only a couple of hours from me. That would be
Oh yeah. Well, if you ever go, you'll have to take you have to take lots of video. I'm just reading Laura's comments. Sorry, Laura. I used to like Starbucks until they pushed me off.
You're always upset with something.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Well,
Dunkin' isn't consistent. Man, don't say that up here. Dunks is. Oh, I didn't say it. I was saying that Starbucks is consistent. Yeah.
Starbucks is consistent. Yeah, it's just a here thing, I think, with Dunkin' Donuts. But I know in Boston, it's Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks on every corner, and it's a big debate on what coffee store you like. And whatever you like is very cool with me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As long as you're drinking it, and
right.
And in Canada, I think there's something called Tim Hortons.
Yes, Tim Hortons.
And I think there's some in the States, but I think they also have donuts, and that was fun. Yeah.
Great coffee shop. I had neighbors when we were growing up. My dad lived next to some people from Canada, and they loved Tim Hortons. And they don't have, I don't know if this is the case in all of Canada, but they don't have Chick-fil-A. So my neighbors, when they first moved to Virginia, where my dad lived, they were so enamored by Chick-fil-A, and they had no clue what to call it. So they kept saying, we went to this great place called Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Of course, that's when you're not from here, that's what you would call it. It makes sense. But I always think it's so funny.
Yeah, that is awesome. Katie, I hope you come back and do it again. There's so much good music out there. That's for sure.
There is. Well, thank you so much for having me. I had a ball today sharing all these records and hearing from you all in the chat.
Yeah. TC says there's a few Tim Hortons invading Dunks territory in Providence, Rhode Island. They're not doing very well. Surprise.
Whoa.
I don't know. You watch these videos of people in Canada, they're going to Tim Hortons, they're getting coffee, they're getting the sandwiches, they're getting donuts, and they're just like, Tim Hortons. And hey, that's totally cool. But I've never been, so there you go.
I don't think I've ever been to one either.
Yeah, absolutely. Katie, Record Store Day Drops 2020 is coming up a week from tomorrow. Anything that we should be on the lookout for this particular drop?
Oh, I'm excited for Record Store Day drops. I've looked at the list, and I got my Elton John record that I was really excited to get this previous Record Store Day drops, as well as the blues record that came out on Sun, the Sun blues record, which was fantastic. And I don't know that there's anything I'll be picking up this Record Store Day drops, this next one, but there's a lot of things people are really looking forward to. And I saw, Adam, that you got that Space Hogs record for last Record Store Day drops. Everybody wanted that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. What do we do? Wait 25 years for that record to come out? I remember when it was released. I loved it then. I loved it then and I love it now. Yeah. Speaking of which, Katie, I'm getting ready to post on my social media where people can just one second, Katie.
No worries,
Adam. So right now, folks, I'm getting ready to post this, and it gives information about people can reach out to me and book their appointment for Record Store Day Drops 2020 for September. So I'm getting ready to put that up online. So if you follow me on social media, folks, an announcement's on its way. The goal is to have it there at 10 a.m. So there we go. Looking forward to part 2. Absolutely. I thank everybody for coming and hanging out with me. I thank you so much, Katie, for hanging out with me. And if you're like me, you just got started. There's so many other cool things to show and share. And there you go.
Well, thank you, Adam, so much for having me. And again, it's great seeing you all in the chat. And thank you. Please subscribe to Adam if you're not subscribed already, and hit the big thumbs up button.
And make sure you do sub to Katie. I appreciate it a bunch. All right, everybody, rock and roll. Have a good day. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.